Hey, and welcome to another Inner Alchemy Live session where we try to share ideas and insights and elements of ancient wisdom traditions that can help you become the best version of yourself. Today, I'm going to share with you three things that helped me to deal with the pain of disappointment. I think we've all pretty much been there. We get excited about a new relationship or a new project, maybe an idea that we've had about ways to break free from the mundane or dead end job that we find ourselves in, and we give it everything we've got, maybe for a couple weeks or even a month. But then when the universe doesn't seem to really be on board with manifesting the kinds of results we hoped for or that we expected, we become stressed, we become angry, maybe even a little bit depressed. So how do we deal with disappointments in a healthier way? Well, more on that when we come back. What up, witches? For those who don't know me, I'm John Michael Salvato, and if you find the content that we share today helpful or valuable, please consider sharing it with others. And if you're watching us live today, please let us know where you're watching from by dropping live in the comments and include where you're watching from. And if you happen to be watching us on the replay, go ahead and drop a replay in the comments as well and let us know where you're watching from. I'm going to go ahead and turn the comment section on my screen and try not to be distracted by the fact that I have a new camera and it's not quite as clear as I would like, so I'm trying to just look straight at the camera itself and not at the video feed. So let's go ahead and dive in. Dealing with life's disappointments can be rough. I mean, as spiritual practitioners especially, we learn to work with the energies around ideas, around thoughts and intentions to effectively manifest them in our experience of the world. But disappointments happen. Have you ever been excited about something, maybe a new business venture or a social group, maybe an organization that you joined or a relationship or even a new friendship, and you invest a great deal of love and attention and enthusiasm and more into that, only to find out that you're going to be disappointed a short time later? If that's happened to you, put "I feel ya" in the comments down below, because I think it's happened to all of us. And today I want to share with you three things that I found that can make all the difference in the world in how we deal with disappointment. But before I do that, I have to tell you something. I just happened to look at the camera, at the screen again, and see that I have on the Iron Maiden t-shirt again. And I want you to know that I do change my clothes. I happen to have washed laundry, and this was the first black shirt that was in the pile again. But I just noticed and thought, God, it's going to look like I'm a slob. So back to what I was saying. There's three things that I found that can make all the difference in the world in how we deal with disappointment. So first off, let me say that I know how you feel if you've been there. I know how you feel. If there's our motorcycle, we know that we're right on track when the motorcycle runs down the alleyway. I've recently become involved in two significant projects, as many of you know, and they're projects that are having a profound impact on people's lives, helping them to restore balance and homeostasis in their bodies, their minds, and spirits, teaching some gifted practitioners how to implement new healing modalities in their professional practices so that they can begin to monetize the work that they do. And naturally, when I started these projects, I reached out to the people that I knew could use my help right away. And I let them know that, first of all, they're members of my tribe, and I'm all about doing anything I can to help them create a better life for themselves and for others. But two of them completely ignored my attempts to reach out to them and just share with them what I'm doing. Not that I necessarily wanted them to be involved with what we're doing, but I wanted them to let them know that I'm here to be able to help them. And so I didn't hear from those two people, but I did hear from them when they wanted something from me. And that's, deeply disappointing. A third person boggled my mind when they said that they didn't want, that they knew what I was doing was great, but they more importantly knew that what they were doing was potentially harmful to others. And we had this conversation. I said, well, that might be hurting people in this way. And they said, yeah, but I need to be able to make a living. And they were too busy to think about linking arms with people whose integrity and ethics and core values would help them elevate their own, and by doing so, I think, get better results. And then a fourth person, came along and claimed to be as excited as I was. They seemed like they were really ready to link arms and move ahead. But my intuition proved right on that one as well, and they were deeply disappointing in their lack of effort and lack of coachability. And so here's the first key. Understand that people are going to disappoint you often and in ways you cannot begin to imagine. We live in a society, guys, that conditions people to be mediocre. And mediocre people will sabotage every chance they have at becoming more than mediocre. So every time someone comes along who doesn't quite measure up, every time someone comes along who lets you down, just be grateful for them, because you have the opportunity to continue forward, and they may not at this point in time, based on their own limitations that they've self-imposed. But you've got to go through at least 8 mediocre people, in my experience, to find 2 or 3 exceptional ones. So every time you meet another mediocre person, they're bringing you one step closer to those 2 or 3 exceptional ones. Now, the second key is a really important one that I really owe to my mentor, the late Mr. Jim Rohn, who impressed upon me in one of our very first meetings this key to success, this key to being able to be a very successful and efficient practitioner. And he said that in any situation you're in, no matter what, whatever you're hearing, whatever you're reading, whatever you're experiencing is 90% opinion and 10% fact. And that can seem really simple, but I want you to think about that again. Everything that you see, everything that you read, everything that you hear is 90% opinion, 10% fact. I'll tell you a story. I was teaching a class just recently on the 7 Hermetic Principles, and explained that how these truths had an impact on 2 of the most prominent persons in the metaphysical and New Thought communities during the late 19th century. That was Phineas Quimby and Dr. Thomas Troward. And in having this conversation online with people who asked to be part of that class, within hours, one of the most arrogant, self-aggrandizing, frankly boorish people in the occult community, whose tiresome body of work reads more like a high school book report than it does scholarship, decided to attack me and to malign me, claiming that New Thought didn't even exist until the 20th century. Well, the conversation I wanted to have with him was to explain that if New Thought emerged in the 20th century, it must have been in conversations and in dialogue and in process into the late 19th century, when both of these individuals were really coming up. They were really in formation. And so I wanted to just tell him that he was an idiot, and that he can quote Manly P. Hall all he wants, but he will never make him or his quoting him will never make him or his absurd fashion accessories an adept metaphysician. And so as I was getting ready to do that, 2 things really struck me. The first was remembering what Jim Rohn said. Sure, he disappointed me. This guy disappointed me because I expected a little bit more scholarship from him. I expected a lot more rational thinking from him. But I recalled that his hateful and sophomoric diatribe was 90% opinion and 10% fact. So there was nothing really to argue with him about, because I respect people's right to have an opinion, no matter how absurd I think it might be. And then I was reminded that second thing, and that was probably more important. And that second reminder was that my own thoughts about him were 90% opinion, granted a very low opinion, but only 10% fact. And so when we realize that, then it becomes even more important that we let it go. because we realize that our thoughts, our statements, our anger, hostility, whatever, is based on our perceptions. It's not necessarily based on the fact. So that was the second big key. And the third big key, this is the biggest one. Go ahead and drop a truth bomb in the comments if you're ready to learn what the number one key to not allowing people or relationships or companies or organizations, communities to disappoint and derail you. If you're ready for that, go ahead and drop a truth bomb in the comments. Because guys, the third greatest key is also something that another mentor, this time the great metaphysician and teacher, the late Dr. Kennedy Schultz, taught me when we first met. And he said, when you're out there and about the business of manifesting a better life, you have to remain married to the process, but divorced from the outcome. Now, at first that seemed really fucked up, really odd. I mean, wasn't the outcome the whole reason why I was doing the work? You know, when we start a new business, isn't the idea to make a sale or to make money? When we engage in a new relationship, isn't the idea to connect and love one another? Well, as it turns out, no. The objective is to know that there are universal laws, immutable laws, that are always at work, such as the immutable law of correspondence or the immutable law of polarity or law of vibration and so on. And these laws are working for us 24/7. So being married to the process is an act of joyful surrender, because we know that there's no chance of failure, only a matter of degrees of success. And when disappointment arises, it's like a milepost on the side of the highway. And here's what I mean when I say that. Let's pretend that you and I are going to start out in New York City on a trip headed down US 1 to Miami. Now, I personally don't even know if US 1 goes that far up, but I'm going to imagine that it does. And we get disappointed when we jump on the highway and a few traffic lights down, we see a signpost that says 12,086 miles to go to Miami. Well, do we just give up at that point? No, we just keep moving forward. And if we reach a construction zone, when we get down around the Carolinas, and you will, we don't just say, all right, I got to give up, there's a construction zone. We take the detour, and we know that we've begun with the end in mind. So come hell or high water, we are going to end up in Miami. There might be 100 detours that get us there, but what an adventure. And so that's what it means to begin with the end in mind. That's what it means to be married to the process, but divorced from the outcomes. So guys, I hope that these three very simple keys for overcoming the pain of disappointment are something that makes sense to you, something that brings you value. If it does, like I said, I'd appreciate it if you would share these and like the post. And you know, we invite you to find out more about the things we do at inneralchemy.online. You can see that down in the address bar right here. You can also see our YouTube channel right here, and of course our Twitter channel as well. We would love to continue to connect with you on those. If you've got questions about what we shared today, go ahead and put those in the comments as well, and I will get to those. We're coming up on the week that leads up to my wedding, and so I'm going to be a little less available online through the week next week as I get ready. I've got a radio interview I'm doing with the great Dr. Rachel Gregg sometime next week, and I think that's probably one of the only live broadcasts that I can promise I'll do. If time allows and I get the inspiration, I might jump on here once or twice during the week and just share a couple of thoughts with you guys. But just because we're not here doesn't mean you won't have content. We will make an effort to share some of the best material that's come from season 3 in the brew, as well as season 2 for Inner Alchemy. And I just want you guys to know that as we're getting ready to celebrate our relationship at 11 and a half years of taking this journey together, really and truly beginning married to the process and divorced from the outcome, I can tell you that in this relationship, that has yielded some of the most incredible fruits that I could ever have asked for. And so as we do at the end of every one of these broadcasts, I encourage you to bring yourself back to the present moment, because that's where the power is. That's where you become married to the process but divorced from the outcome, because the outcome is in the future, right? And the future doesn't exist. And nothing that happened to you in the past really matters, because that, we know from that second key, is 90% opinion and 10% fact. So why not come back to this moment where we know that the truth, that the fact is that we're healthy and that we're well, that we were provided for, and that we're safe. And that's the point of power. So we can allow this present moment to be filled with gratitude for the things that we've got, knowing that it opens the door for the abundance that's waiting for us. And always remember, my friends, the best is yet to come. I love and appreciate every one of you. Like I said, if we don't see you before the wedding next week, know that we will be celebrating our love for one another, as well as our love for you guys. And now just a quick note from our sponsors as we take us out of another installment of Inner Alchemy. Have a fantastic Labor Day weekend for those of you that live in the United States. I do think this, I think this is Friday. If it's not Friday, then I'll probably be here, I'll be back here tomorrow. But if it's Friday, have a fantastic Labor Day weekend. Love you guys.